Welcome back for another Inventor tutorial. In this lesson, we're going to be going over tutorial number 11. And basically what we're going to learn in here, we're going to talk about revolves, we're going to learn patterning, and we're actually going to mirror a feature as well. We've done some mirroring in the past, we've mirrored some sketches, but I don't know that we've actually mirrored a solid. So we're going to be doing that as well. So let's go ahead and get started. And I'm just going to follow along as I kind of usually do with the tutorials. I might stray a little bit here and there. But let's go ahead and start a sketch. I'm just kind of looking to see where the sketch is. So here we go. So I found my sketch. All right, so we're going to start on the XY plane. And I'm going to create this thing the way I want to, the orientation. I'm not sure if it's going to be the same as what they did or not. If it's not, that's fine. All right, so I'm just going to start a line here. And I'm going to draw it. Looks like they have like a 4-inch diameter, so I'm going to draw this thing up a little bit here, like 2 inches. This comes out, straight down. And I'm exaggerating these angles so that I can set them correctly. And I think this is longer. And connect there. Okay. All right, so there is our basic shape. Now, the way that it has you dimensioning this is interesting. It actually has you using a linear diameter. That is fine. And if you have a bunch of diameters to do and basically you're measuring the diameter, it makes it a little easier. You don't have to do the math each time, divide each one by 2 to get the radius, so that, you know, when you create it from here to here, obviously you're going to require the radius there. You don't have to get that each time. So it makes things a little easier if you do it that way. So we're going to do it that way. So what we're going to do that, the easiest way is just to turn on our x-axis and turn the visibility on, so that I can just click on that and get these diameters. So you're going to start, you have to start by clicking on the diameter first, or sorry, the axis first. If I click on the diameter first, and then I click on the axis and I go to linear, you can see it offsets it the wrong direction. So if I go back and I click on the axis and then here, and then I go linear diameter, now it offsets it the correct direction. All right, so that first one is 0.75. 0.75. And let's just keep going with these, I guess. This one, linear diameter, is 1.25. 1.5. This is kind of a tedious process here, but it's going well. 3.5. 3.75. And 4.0. Okay, let me move that out just so it's not overlaying that. All right, and next we need to give our dimensions. This is 0.5. Okay, so you see there, I got something that I did not want in this case. And I could drag this thing or drag this or whatever. I was in a dimension, so it wouldn't let me do it. So I can kind of drag this stuff around. I don't want to do that. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to make this not coincident, but horizontal to there. And then I'm going to add the rest of my dimensions. And I think I need this one here as well, which is 0.75. All right. Now that should give me what I want. That looks right. So it's fully constrained. Let me just quick double check that by regenning. It looks good. And I'm going to hit finish. let me just kind of skim through here to see what they're having us do. And okay, they are revolving it next. Cool. I'm going to make sure I didn't miss anything. So we're going to revolve this, and we got the profile. All we need is the axis, and that's going to be the x-axis. So I selected the x-axis over here. I could have selected it here on the screen as well. So if I didn't have it, I could, since I had it visible, I could select it there as well. But I'm just in the habit of going over here all the time. Usually I don't have them visible. So that looks great. That's exactly what we want. So I'm going to hit OK. And I'm going to turn my x-axis off now. And that looks good. So the next thing we need to do is, this actually needs mirrored as a solid. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick the mirror command up here if I can find it. There it is. And features. So I'm just going to go over here and I'm going to select this feature. And then I'm going to go with mirror plane. And I'm going to find the plane that I want to mirror it over. And that's obviously going to be the YZ plane, as you can see here. So, see there? And you can see it is mirrored over that plane there. I'm going to hit OK. And there is my part. Okay, so let's name these. Pulley revolution and pulley rev mirror. All right. Okay, so next we need to put some holes in here. In your book, it has you working on the XY plane. So it's actually working in a mid-plane, and we're at mid-plane extrude. So I'm going to do that because obviously we already know how to create something on this face. So let's go ahead and do this. And it's doing it a little differently. When I would do this, as you've seen me do in the past, I would probably just go slice graphics and I would do it that way. But it actually has you going to a view and changing our view to a wireframe. And we're going to go ahead and draw a circle in there. So let's, in fact, actually, the other thing it has you do is go to our sketch and project geometry, and we project our X plane and our Y plane. I get my X. Oh, whoops. I guess my Z in this case. All right, so let's go to look at, select that. All right. So let's draw our circle, our first one here. I'm just going to draw it in a random place. And I don't know what size that is. It's 1/2 inch. Okay, 0.5. And we are going to need to draw ourselves some construction geometry here. Oops. Let me get my origin back. Come there. And of course, my construction turned off. And we're going to draw ourselves a line as well to there so we can dimension this correctly. And I believe this one is 2.5. Yeah. And our angle is 30, I believe. Yep. Okay, so we're fully constrained there. Now what we're going to do is we're going to extrude this. So we're going to finish this up, and I'm going to extrude symmetrically through all and make sure it's a cut. Hit OK. And I'm going to go back to my view, and I'm going to change my visual style back. The only reason I changed that was just so I could see what was going on, because I was working in the middle of the part. That's one way you can do it. You can also do the slice graphics method. All right, shade with edges. And there we go. Okay, so I'm going to call this 0.5 hole cut. And now we're going to pattern this. So I'm going to go up here to my circular pattern. I'm going to select this feature. And my axis of rotation I'm going to select is going to be not my Z, not my, is it my Y? Helps if I turn, oh, it's my X. So I'm going to select my X and change this number to 5 and hit OK. And there we go. So there is my part. So we got our holes in there. And the last thing it's asking us to do, and I'm not sure why it's asking us to do this, but it's essentially just asking us to find, our, right here is our number of holes and our 360 degrees. So it's asking to find those parameters, and then it's just telling us to click done. So it's not actually having us change them or anything. So I'm going to go ahead and hit done, and we're going to save this part. So I'm going to hit File, Save As, and this is going to be lesson 11. Hit Save. Okay. All right, so that looks good. We got everything named. I'm going to actually change this here. Call it whole pattern. And resave that just to make sure that that stays updated. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and close that out. Actually, I'm just going to leave it open. That way we can just pull it up into our sheet. I'm going to hit New. Pull up our Thaddeus Stevens template. Okay. All right, so it has us using what appears to be an A sheet. And we don't need to do this template stuff and edit a lot of this because we've already created our own. So we can skip over that. This is the instructions on how to create a template. So when you get to that, this is the chapter that you would want to visit. Okay, let's see here. All right, so here we're pulling it in, a base, and it is a 3/4. Looks good. Actually, we want this face, and I'm going to hit OK. I'm going to drag this guy up, and we're going to make a section view here. So I'm going to select Section. I'm going to select my, well, I guess it's just this feature. So if you have multiple projected views here, you actually have to select the view. So just to give you a kind of an example, oops, I hit Escape, create. So if I had multiple views here, now I'd have to select it. So I have to select which one I want, and then I can create my section view. But since it only has one, in this case, well, now that I created one, it does make me select it. So now I select it, and I'm going to draw my section through here as best I can. Hit Continue, and we're going to drag this guy out. Okay, and there's our section view. Inside section view, label visibility option is shown. So let's just double click on this and make sure that our parameters are the same for all of this. Sections A, and it's a little different in your book, depending on what book you're looking at, which way it lays it out. But I believe all of our stuff is the same. So I'm going to hit Escape, and that looks good. I'm going to drag this label down a little bit, though. I don't want it so close. All right. Next thing, let's make a isometric view here quick. And place that up here. Create. And I'm actually going to make that shaded. Okay. And drag this over just a hair. This over just a hair. Just to give myself some room to dimension here. All right. So what it's having you do now is it's having you retrieve the model annotation. So if I right click on this, and if I can find that, I always have trouble finding it. Retrieve model annotations. You can see here that actually a lot of these are useful. So I've told you in the past that these aren't useful a lot of times, but in this particular instance, they actually are fairly useful here. So we're going to see if we can use these. Oops, accidentally hit Escape. retrieve model annotations, and I'm just going to hit OK for now. And we're going to arrange these the way that we want, of course. So I don't necessarily want some of these. So what I'm doing is I'm just kind of looking at how I can arrange these correctly so that we can see them all and not have to worry. So there we got that one. Let me move these out here a little bit. Okay. So I need to give myself a little more room to see if I can do that and still keep this thing looking nice and neat. Okay, so this one here needs to go the opposite. And notice I'm staggering these a little more as I go along. And that's just so there's not a problem reading them. So they're pretty easy to read. And I want that line to go through. Okay, so what I wanted to do is I wanted to make sure that these dimensions didn't intersect that line, that leader line. That way it makes it easier to read. So we can use all those. And this one here, we're not going to use that one. We're going to delete that one. We're going to delete this one. We're going to delete this one, I think. Yeah, I don't know what that one's to. That's for the holes. We're going to delete that one and that one. Okay, so we're going to get rid of those, and we're going to apply new dimensions for those. In this case, dimension, I'm just going to select this width here. I'm going to drag this out a little further than what I normally would, because I'm also going to put this one in there as well. So that's okay. It's, if I could get away without doing that, that'd be great. But unfortunately, I'm kind of limited here. And then we're going to pull this dimension here. And I'm just going to pull this one off the other direction. And there we have everything we need. Okay. All right, so that gives us all the dimensions on this one, I believe. Let me just go to my last page here. So actually, it just gave me an idea by looking at this one. And the 1.5. So what we can do is tidy this up a little more. Now that after I looked at that, I saw what they did, and that makes sense actually to do it that way. So they're coming off both directions. And just give myself a little more room there. All right, we have our 1.5. So they're 1.5 they're putting in here, which is also okay. I think I would almost rather see it down here, to be honest with you. And we need to do some center lines. Whoops. Thought I was bisecting, but I'm not. So bisecting center line there. Drag out a little bit. And that looks good. Okay, so one of the things I noticed in the final drawing, which is what I skipped to, is that I don't have any cross-sectional holes. Well, that's because it tells us to go back and alter that. So we're going to go back and we're going to right-click and do Edit Feature. And we're going to change that to a 6-hole pattern, hit OK. And then we're going to save it. And I'm going to come back in here, and I don't even need to update it. It's already updated for us. So we're going to add those in. And there are our holes. All right, next we're going to add our center lines in here for their whole pattern. First thing I need to do is select the circular entity, and then I'm going to select the holes, and I'm going to go counterclockwise around here. And right click and hit create. I'm going to extend these. Looks good. Dimension from here, 60 degrees. We need a 1/2 inch circle there. And we're going to give our diameter. I'm actually going to right click this and go dimension type diameter. So it changes that to a diameter. And I think that is everything that we need in this tutorial. So we have our fully defined part, and when I say fully defined, don't mistake that for what I mean when we do a sketch. I mean, we have all our dimensions to actually create the part that we need. So everything is here, and all I really need is a title and a material. So I can just go back into here, right click, and this is a pulley wheel, so we're going to make it out of carbon steel. And I'm going to go ahead and hit my title. And my title, we'll make this Sim 272, or whatever class it would apply to. So I'm going to hit OK. And then that stuff populates in there. And as you can see here, it's a little tight. Actually, looks a little tight. I have a lot of room down here. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to drag this down a little bit. Maybe that's too much. There. So it kind of looks centered. Just so it looks, it's the best presentation I can give. And that looks good. So I did pull these model geometry, or sorry, these model dimensions this time. And it's just because they were already created. They're already created the way that I wanted them to be created. So they were somewhat useful. I could also easily have just dimensioned this from here as well. So, you don't have to pull those model dimensions. I had to delete quite a few of them. So did it save time? It's a toss-up. But at the end of the day, here is our print, and this looks good. So if you have questions, of course, as always, you can see me during my office hours or, of course, during class.